All right, friends, let's start. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me, right?
Yes, yeah.
Great. Cedric, how are you? I wanted to contact you, but good, I can see you here. Are you able to come in right now, given that you have some clash assessment to write in Belgium? Can you come and write it?
Yeah, I just finished my first part of the exams in Belgium, so now I'm waiting for the second part. But I did get the other exam on the 19th to change date, so it's not a problem anymore.
All right, so you can come and write. That's good. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. All right. I wanted you to put in an ACS because of your situation, but if you have changed the Belgium one, that's good. All right. Hopefully you get through this one and you'll be fine. Okay, so friends, usually not the norm where we run a revision session around this time. Normally the third term is quite quiet and students do their own stuff. But I understand the need, so I have to come in. I know many people wouldn't come, but it's good we have more than 10, 12 people here, so that's good. So yeah, so we will move on. We'll move on. I would like it to be a little bit interactive, okay? Audit is practical, and especially as it is a paper which is examined, which requires accreditation by ICAS, ACCA, and other professional bodies. We try to set it at the highest standard. No two ways about that. So you'll be fine. Once again, most of you know I'm not in Scotland. I'm now in London, but I still have to support you as best as I can. Okay, so if you have any challenges again, please get back to your tutor should help. But if they wouldn't, just an email I will send me. Let me see how best I can. I can't. I'll do my best. Yeah, I'll do my best to support. Okay, you realize that what I posted online, I said it is slides. I mentioned particular slides from slide 6 to 10 or 12 should be the heart. In the past, it hasn't been the case where we do everything generic and tell you look for audit evidence, look for reporting, look for test of controls and substantive testing. We just mention it generic. But this time around, I try to give you what you should expect in each case study. So 4 case studies, and in each one, what you should expect, okay? I'm not giving you the questions and the answers, but I'll tease you to know the flavor or to have a foretaste of what you should expect, okay? All right, so as usual, let's go with the generics and then we narrow down on the specifics. So I'll skip some slides, which I'm sure you already have some knowledge about, and then we'll just go to the main heart. All right. Okay, so as usual, we're testing all right. So we are testing all the learning outcomes per the PSMD. Okay, so auditing, look at internal and external. You always find at this level, even if you're writing the professional exams at this level, you always have some question on internal and external audit. So the usual thing you ask yourself is what can be asked in areas of internal and external audit? You will say the differences, okay? What's the difference between an internal and external audit? Which areas do they have some commonalities, some similarities, okay? You would also ask questions like, under what circumstances would an organization want to do what? To have an internal audit? What factors will necessitate a company to have an internal audit? So those are the questions you keep asking. And then also you may want to ask one of the key areas that ISA 610, which tells us that under which circumstances would the external audit function rely on the internal audit? This area is usually assessed because auditing in its own, we look at more of the external audit. But once we come into the company, we expect that the company has its own corporate governance system effectively run, And internal audit function is one key aspect of the corporate governance system. So when the external auditor comes in, should he start from scratch? No, it doesn't make sense. If we have an internal audit function there, the question is, to what extent can I place reliance on the work they've done to reduce the workload, okay? So consider questions which may come from these areas, okay? Sometimes we also try to outsource the internal audit function. What are the advantages of outsourcing the internal audit function? So these are questions you should ask yourself. Now, sometimes we have right sourcing. What are the advantages of right sourcing? So consider the merits, the demerits, okay? And some of these things you don't even need to think deep. You can easily tell the answers off head. We wouldn't ask you, we'll narrow it down maybe three reasons why, 3 areas of commonalities between internal and external, 3 reasons why we should outsource the internal audit, 3 advantages of right sourcing. The difference between outsource is that the whole internal audit function is given to an outside party, the whole of it. So the company internally has no representative on the internal audit function. But for right sourcing, we have internal audit function in the company, but we think that their competency is not up to standards, or they don't have the full staff strength. Therefore, we go out and find some experts with audit firms or with a consultant who comes to augment their work. So they are more or less coming to support them to run the audits. Okay, so those are the 2 differences. That's the difference between the 2 sides. Okay, that's the difference between the 2 sides. So we'll specifically ask you what, how many, when, under which circumstances, to what extent, factors. So you should be able to list them, okay? And those points are totally independent of the case study. Okay, so you get a case study, yes. And if you're writing any of the professional exams, the same thing. If you go and write advanced audit, you will see that there's a case study, but sometimes you see that out of the case study, they will ask you, to what extent do you think that ABC company should right source their audit function? They are telling you from the case, but actually, the answer is independent of the case. You can write objectively without linking it to the case, and you get your full marks, okay? But a heart of most of the marks are within the case study, okay? The legal and professional rules which affect the audit and the auditor. In this case, what would you think of? Ethical threats, okay? Professional code of conduct, auditor liability. Those are the things that will come to mind. And then, of course, the third one, which is the main part of the work, which talks of evidence gathering, testing, reporting, controls. Okay, all right. So I'll run through this quickly. The same thing as you saw in the initial, the main exams revision slide. So all units is important. All 3 learning outcomes are essential. Our exams is aligned to the ACCA. So the good thing about ACCA is that you pass audit, they exempt you. But with ICAS, you pass, you need to get about a minimum threshold of 60% overall. Otherwise, you have to rewrite. Okay. I have a student who graduated with a first class, very good student, but ICAS is asking him to write some of the papers because although he got a first class, it's not a guarantee because some of the papers he had below the threshold. So they're asking him to write tests of professional skills and taxation and financial accounting. You can imagine that. Those are things you learned in first, second year. But so that's it. And again, if you want to write ICAEW, their standards will be different. But for UWS, we have some kind of MOU with ACCA. And so our exams are totally set in line with the ACCA. The secret to passing this paper, if you have any of the ACCA texts and revision kits, that is enough. That is enough. The core text we are using, the Millichamp and Taylor, you can see that there are questions. They will tell you ACCA style exams. So you will see that they've also adapted strictly to the ACCA. So that's why we're using those 2 texts, okay? ACCA style, like I said, and that is it. You'll be okay. More questions on our Moodle site. The past questions are purely aligned to the ACCA style. If you don't have time to read everything, no worries. Listen, just practice the past questions and you'll be fine. Don't memorize it like chewing, committing it to memory. In Africa, we say chew and pour. You chew it, it's time you pour, and you forget. No. The questions could be tweaked a little. And the good thing about ACCA exams is that, or ACCA style exams is that we don't repeat the same question. We'll modify it, but we don't repeat. So you don't go back and think that when I read 2021 past question, the same thing will come. No. You see a similarity, but you don't say 100% representation. Okay. All 4 case studies, we'll have to answer them. No options to choose. As you know, we want you to get fully involved. Questions are tailored to ensure that you can apply your learning objectives to practical scenarios. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Don't go memorize it. Come into the exams and thinking you can reproduce it. Put yourself in the shoes of an auditor. And especially since you have your basic accounting, financial accounting, most of you have done FA3 with Sadat, so that's good. You should now have a more like a leverage over the financial accounting module. Okay, very easy, very easy. So these are the key areas ACCA requires us to do. Planning and risk assessment, you see this covers almost units 1 to 5. Internal control and reporting and audit evidence. Audit evidence, you can never escape it. Audit evidence, you will never escape it, okay? And what do I mean by audit evidence? So we are talking of, you find out, let me give you a typical example. You have a weakness in an organization. The question is, if I don't address this weakness, what will be the consequences? More like a risk management perspective. Today, audits are all risk-based audits. Gone were the days audits were materiality-based, the numbers, the figures. Now talking of risk-based. So because audit is usually a historical activity, financial accounting itself is a historical activity. So because audit in itself is a historical activity, the question is, you've gone in, the harm has been caused. The question is, assess the controls. What is the weakness? You've been able to identify the weakness, and you can find this weakness clearly in the case study, clearly, visibly in the case study. But what you don't find is that the consequences. Most students will write the risk. There is lack of segregation of duties in the treasury function. They've said it. You get half a mark, half, just 1/2, 0.5. But you have to explain, if there's lack of segregation of duties in the treasury function, what will it do to the company? Okay, this could lead, or this could potentially lead to fraud risk in terms of cash and treasury management. That is what we want you to write. Then after that, you have to then go on and make a recommendation. And typically in an audit setting, you must find the root cause. Once you find the root cause, you can be able to tell the recommendation. Okay, in a typical professional exam setting, or even in practice, because if I don't know why my vehicle tire keeps deflating, what recommendation would I give? Always keep inflating it? No, maybe the tire has a puncture. So the cause for the reason why the vehicle tire has deflated is because the vehicle tread length is so worn out and it has a puncture. Therefore, the recommendation is that either you fix the puncture or you change the tire altogether. So know the cause, and you can write a very beautiful recommendation. Otherwise, you'll be writing abstract. So when you have found the risk, the control weakness, write the consequences immediately. Then at the back of your mind, think, what is causing it? You find the cause in the case study. You find the cause. Nobody asks you to write the cause. You find the cause. Because in real audit life, you go to the client's office, you talk to them. Why is it that one person does 4 functions in the treasury function? Then they will tell you, we don't have the staff. Or the ones we have are not trained to do this task. That is the cause. So you make a recommendation that they should recruit more staff into the treasury function. Or you make a recommendation that the current staff strength lack the capacity, therefore they should be trained in treasury management. You get it? Audit is so easy. Audit is very, very, very easy. I have never sat in an audit class. But in all my audits, exams I wrote, in my ACCA audit were the highest. Okay, I never attended any, but audit is, because it is, somebody will say it is common knowledge. If you know your accounting, audit is easy. All right. Okay. So planning analytics, nobody will ask you to do ratios in this assessment. Sorry, in these exams. I don't want to use assessment. Exams for accreditation, assessments for non-accreditation. Nobody will ask you, but nobody will ask you to compare ratios. I'm giving you the facts of the case. Nobody will ask you, okay? Because I said the questions. Nobody will ask you that, okay? Ratio analysis, nobody will ask you, okay? But my main point over here is that when you are conducting the risk assessment, like I've just mentioned, the control weaknesses, limit yourself to the case study. Don't write something outside of the case study. Tailor your answers to the case study. Don't write abstract, outside, hypothetical. Clues, the cause is in the case. The risk, the control weakness is in the case. We want you to derive the consequences and write the recommendation. And then tell us what audit procedure would you use to test? So those are the three things. If you master them, you know that you've mastered almost 50% of the work. The control weakness, its consequences. The cause, you find it, but if you want to add it, good. The recommendation, and then the audit procedures you will use to gather evidence. That is it. Okay, that is it. All right. I'll come to this one after the other, but I want to skip all of them. I'll come to this and then go to the other aspects. Then we come back, okay? Because that is the heart. Some people are still joining. So maybe by the time we go through these generics, they would have come and then enjoy the main heart. Otherwise, they'll come and meet these ones which do not really, they are good, but they do not really count towards the main marks. If you have any idea of the question, if you don't have any idea, skip, go to the next one. By the time you finish the second one, you will realize that there's a clue here that helps you to answer the first question. That is how audit works, okay? Put yourself in the shoes of the company. Okay, put yourselves in the shoe. Be an auditor during the exams. No panic. No panic. Okay, if you see the case, and that is the reality. Unfortunately, I made a case, but it never went through. I have tried to assess audit papers from sister universities, and you know how many hours they used to write this paper? 3 hours. 3 hours. 3 hours. But we are doing 2 hours. I was with Strathclyde teaching audit there for 2 years. Strathclyde has currently split audit into 2, term 1 and term 2. Unfortunately for us, we have bulked everything together. So you are learning 2 semesters. It's like you are learning 40 credits in 20 credits. It's crazy. And I've made this case, I've told them, listen, if we want our students to enjoy audit and the pass rate to go high, let's split it into 2. Let's split the module into 2. Maybe 10 credit is better. Otherwise, we'll kill them. They'll do it, hopefully. They'll do it, okay? So what I'm saying is that when you see the case study, you may be tempted to panic. Or you look at the case study alone, about 6-7 pages, am I correct? About 4-5-6 pages. And you ask yourself, by the time you finish reading, you would have spent 1 hour just thinking about it. You would have spent 1 hour. Can you use 1 hour to write the rest? It's not possible, my good friends. It's not possible. So strategize. That's why I thought that, listen, instead of making everything generic, let me put the cases, and then you know what to do. You go in here, you can gather some 10 marks here, write and leave and go to the next one. You can gather some 15 marks here, write and go to the next one, and be smart, be very smart, okay? If you even put them in bullet point, that is enough. And I think the exams is face-to-face, not online. So typing, some of you are very fast in typing than writing. I'm very fast in typing on my laptop than writing. So writing, you could slow down, okay? All right, let us move on. So you see the case study, don't panic. If you look at the questions on the surface, you might think this is a lot. That alone can take 30 minutes of your time. But please, strategize, okay? Yeah, I move on. Timing, like I said, 2 hours. I've said this. I've just spoken about this, okay? So plan your time, be fast. If you can use the first 10 minutes to skim through the question quickly and know which one will give you a good start, a head start. Don't just start from question 1. Don't just start from question 1, okay? Use the one which will give you a head start. Leave a space, go to the next one. Leave a space, go to the next one. And of course, at the front of your exam sheet, you know you're answering all the 4. So simply start writing question 1, 2, 3, 4. Write it in form because you have to answer all, okay? So that you can settle and build your confidence. Read the required sections before you read the required questions, the question before you read the case study. Read the requirements again. Highlight the keywords, describe, list, describe, explain, mention, just do it, okay? And plan. Do what the question asks. And like I always say, you see it in the slides, use tables. Use tables. You can flip your paper in a landscape format and write it. Nobody will penalize you for that. You can flip it, okay? If you want to keep it in a portrait, no worries. If you want to flip it in a landscape, nobody will penalize you for that. Yes, we've said this over and over. State the obvious. Biggest error students make is that want to attempt everything fully. And that is the reality I'm telling you. Because, you know, what I do is that after setting the questions, I sit back and behave like a student. And I take the question and I time myself that I'm a student. Of course, I know the answers, but I take my time and write as if I am a student, not a teacher. And personally, I have realized that I can't use 2 hours to finish all the work if I put myself in the shoes of a student. If I put myself in the shoes of a teacher, yes, I can finish in 1.5 hours. But as a student, and you are students, okay? So that is what we are negotiating. You are not you. I don't expect any of you to get another receipt. Clear it and go in peace, okay? Even writing a bit of it is enough to score some marks. No one will penalize you. That is why you saw the case study, the class test. Some people decide not to attempt it at all, okay? But that's the past. Okay, some common problems. Don't confuse compliance tests with substantive tests. Substantive tests are the detailed, okay, analytics. Not answering what you were asked, and then you try to plug in your own. Don't do that, okay? Not answering all that was asked. You answer part and leave part. Don't do that, okay? Again, think like an auditor. Be in the shoes of an auditor. You know your financial accounting 1, accounting 2, accounting 3. Please put yourself in the shoes of an accountant and see what could have gone wrong, okay? Take into account the marks allocated to each question. If this question has 15 marks, dwell more on that one. The 5 marks, don't waste your time. If time is running, don't waste your time, okay? Past papers, like I said, they are good. They reflect what you will see. They are not the same as what you are going to see. But trust me, if you have practiced past papers, unless you don't understand what you are practicing, this should be easy, okay? Method of reading out past questions. You think, yes, I can do, you've read it, practice it. Like I'm telling you, as a lecturer myself, and someone who's worked in audit for more than, God knows how long, 19 years, both internal and external audit. When I take the questions, I don't behave like an auditor, like someone who knows audit. I behave like a student and I practice. Okay, I practice to be sure whether, because most of you here have not practiced audit, most of you. So putting yourself in the shoes of an auditor could be hypothetical, but you can do it. But if you put yourself in the shoes of an accountant, because you've done FA1, FA2, FA3, you can do it. Okay, auditors are accountants. Okay, that's why we call them qualified accountants. Okay, so the can-do spirit is good, but I mean, practice makes you perfect. I want to skip this. You know all of this, right? Final question. I'll leave this. You can read this, right? You can do this. You can read this. All right. Okay. Now let's go back to the main items. Question 1, case 31. You see an issue about ethical threats that could affect your company. You know the ethical threats. You know them. You know them. I won't mention them. But listen, the case is designed in such a way that the ethical threats that you know, let me put it in the form of a question. Let me see. We are still 16, so somebody can help me. Who can help me with any of the ethical threats? Just the heading, just the title. Who can help me? Oh.
Familiarity check.
Yeah, Lorna, come again.
Oh, 2 minutes.
Lorna, your line was breaking.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
A familiarity trait,
Familiarity traits.
self-interest trait,
Self-interest traits.
self-review,
Self-review traits.
advocacy,
Advocacy traits.
and that's all I know.
That's all you know. Excellent. Excellent. So you can see she's mentioned those traits. When you look at the case study, sometimes you forget, you see that there are more traits than even the 4 or 5 that you know. Don't worry about if you forget that self-advocacy, you've forgotten the name, self-review, self-interest, you've forgotten the name. Don't worry. Write the sentence out that they are trying to step in as lawyers, which may give some form of conflict of interest or satisfy their interest. That is it. Okay, let me do this. Let me do this. Let me do this. I know the thing is being recorded, so I have to be careful. I'm not crucified that I've given questions and answers to students. So like Lorna mentioned a couple of threats, right? You would see that in the case, sometimes the threat is there, but you will not have the title to write. Okay. In that case, write what you want. Let me ask you a question. Okay. Let me ask you a question. I want to make it hypothetical. Okay, let's say the company relies heavily on the fees of their clients. What would you write? They rely heavily on the fees. These guys give them like 80% of their fees. Which of the threats would easily Alona go on?
I was going to say like that it's like bribery, like you can't, like they're not, auditors can't accept, like they can't accept that. I don't know what threat it is right now.
All right, you are right.
Intimidation threat.
Come again.
And then intimidation threat.
Intimidation threat, because they give you so much money. Now, if you look at a case and you don't see fee, you don't see anything, so you are not able to write intimidation, you are not able to write this self-interest. You could easily say that these guys give us a lot of fee income. Okay, fee income. So you know that once you accept this, it will result in higher fee. Therefore, for the company to be independent, they need to ensure that these fees generated do not lead to what? Dependency on the company. You know it is a threat you have written beautifully. Beautifully. So in that particular question, honestly, you are, look at the marks, it's about 10 marks. And you are supposed to find the threats. The question is, how many would you want to write? How many? Okay. And the way we have done it is such that you need to write only 5. Only 5. Any sentence that comes to mind which you think is a threat, write it. Even if it is a repetition of something you've written already, write it. It's not a repetition. It's not a repetition at all. You might think, well, I've written intimidation, I'm going to write self-review. It's the same sentence I'm using. No, write it. Write it, okay? In fact, in the solution set, I've provided 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 threats, but you know of only 5. So write, okay? You are not making a mistake at all. You're not making a mistake at all. Yeah. And then the next question has to do with the going concern concept. What do you know about it? Okay, I will not ask you. And how does it relate to preparing and auditing financial statements? Okay, so we are asking you clearly, and again, look at the marks which is assigned, not much. The marks there are not much. Okay, so where you are asked to define it. Well, so even if they ask you, let's say define, and they ask you to state some conditions, 2 or 3 conditions or situations attached to going concern, and you've forgotten the conditions, just define it. You know what happens? Sometimes in your definition, you would have given the conditions. So define it as much as you can. And if you can't finish the rest, leave it. You most likely get not less than half of the marks because you realize that your definition has answered the second part of the question. And then we go on to also ask the auditors, what are our responsibilities towards financial statement preparation and the going concern? What about the directors? Remember, auditors, we don't prepare financial statements. We audit. When I was with KPMG, they trained us in a very good way. We will audit and we will prepare, which is conflicting actually. You don't prepare, but we were made to prepare. And it helps us a lot. Today, if you give me a stack of files of a company, I can easily prepare a financial statement from it. Okay. Then my colleagues in PwC, they only audit and leave the files for the client to prepare, to put them together and prepare the financials. And then they will bring the financials back and then they will review it, which was good in terms of the professional practice. But they end up not knowing the main accounting job, okay? So, I mean, that is where. So again, look at the marks allocated to that one, very easy. And again, it links with the going concern principle, okay? So you realize that in the whole of the first case, all that we are dealing with what? The ethical threats and going concern and reporting. That's all. That's all, okay? So ask yourself, what could be asked about going concern? Do you know the definition of going concern? If you don't know, you find it. Okay, ethical threats, you know them. You can mention them. You can easily speak them out. Okay, but please relate it to the case. Okay, if you are stuck and you cannot relate it to the case, play safe. Write generic. Nobody will penalize you. You at least get some marks. Okay, and then what is the responsibility of auditors and directors regarding financial statement preparation? Preparation. Okay. Not audit, preparation in terms of the going concern principle, okay? The question I'll ask you is, if the auditor does not get sufficient appropriate audit evidence about the management use of going concern, what should they do? Can somebody help me? You know, the auditors have an overview over the reported financials. If I am an auditor and I realize that I don't have enough sufficient evidence that the management has prepared the company financials in line with going concern assumption, what should I do?
Obtain more evidence.
Obtain more evidence? Obtain more evidence? If you're still not getting more evidence, what would you do?
Discuss with the directors the way that they went through it, look at the cash flows, the budgets and stuff like that.
Yes, still that is more evidence, Paul. Discuss. It's more evidence you want to gather from them. You're still not getting it. What would you do?
You don't audit. Yeah, I can't remember what that's called.
You don't audit, don't start at all, but you've already started. The case is...
I can't remember what the word is. It's like you resign from auditing or something, do you know? Like,
yeah. You resign, that is the extreme when they are still not giving you, you resign. That's the ultimate one. I accept. If you write that, you should get some marks. If you don't resign, what can you do? You don't want to resign. You are already in the middle heat of the audit. You've almost finished. What would you do? You did not resign.
Just recreate the financial statements yourself.
Come again, Kirsty, you do what?
You could just recreate the financial statements yourself.
Good. That's why we're saying that auditors don't create the financial statement. They don't prepare. Directors prepare. So we are saying that the directors did not prepare it in line with the going concern. I am an auditor.
You would report that. You would report it. You would say that they didn't do it. Like you would write in the audit report that.
That's good. That's good. You report it. You report it. So would you give them a clean audit report? Would you give them a clean audit or you modify the report?
A modified one?
Modify the report. Modify the report. So that's what we're saying. Even if you write the sentences this way, that I'll resign because ahead of time, I'm not getting it, you should get some marks. That I'll recreate the financial statement. I'll recreate the financial statement. It means you have to qualify it somewhere by saying that by requesting them to pass adjustments, you pass adjustments for them to post. If they are still not, then like we said, you modify the report. You modify the report. Tell them, write it, okay? All right. And then, yeah, that's it. And so Paul mentioned the point, discuss with the directors. Discuss with them. So there's surely you get a question which will tell you which procedures would you use to check this. Which procedures would you use to check this? So check the financials. You see whether we are testing you on cash and treasury, or payables, or receivables, or sales. Okay, quickly, be fast on that one. Okay, question 1 is 25 marks. I think all of them are 25 each. Okay, let's move on. Case 32. Relevant assertions that relate to key accounts. It can be revenue, it can be accounts receivables, payables, payroll. We typically assess you on one of these, okay? Let me make life easy for you. Let me make life easy for you. So the audit assertions will clearly tell you that you know what you are writing. So we'll tell you maybe 3 audit assertions or 4 audit assertions. Remember the assertions that affect the income statement and the assertions that affect the balance sheet or statement of financial position, okay? So when we tell you that assertions, identify and explain assertions that affect payroll. You know, payroll is in the income statement. So go and look for them. Existence, accuracy, you know them. CA, completeness, you know them. But when we tell you about, let's say, again, revenue, you know them. Okay, you know them. But when we tell you about fixed assets, you are in the balance sheet, you are in the statement of financial position. So that's where you look for different items like rights and obligations, right? Ownership, okay, valuation as well comes in. Existence, is it complete? Are all the assets complete? Are they, or has somebody taken a vehicle and it's not in the asset register? Okay, can we value them? Is the value the same or not? Okay, do we have the right? Do we have the title deeds? Okay, so those are the things we want you to write. Okay, existence, can we verify the assets? Okay, so note those ones. The question will tell you one of the financial statement, class of accounts. It can be accounts payable, it can be payroll. If it is payroll, please, it deals with items in the, if for nothing at all, remember the CA, completeness, existence, accuracy of the financial, and presentation, even P, financial statement, the income statement, okay? But for the balance sheet, the ones you know, the rights and obligations, the ownership, okay, the existence, the completeness, okay, the valuation, the accuracy, they all come in there. You should be able to get that. Very easy, very easy. Don't waste so much time on that one. And then, so I intentionally confused by zero revenue, this and that. It is one of these 3. It is one of these 3, okay? I'm not telling you which one. But I wouldn't even worry my head going to look for assertions on this, or assertions on this, or assertion. No, I wouldn't waste my time. I just look for assertions on income statement, and I keep them just for 3. Then I go for balance sheet of statement of financial statement. I keep 3, 4, I keep it. That's I'm done. Anyone which comes, I'll use it to write. Okay. Then internal controls. Like I said, we need to institute them to reduce the risk. We will be asked to explain no more than 4. So in the case study, you see a lot of internal control weakness. And then we ask you, describe the test of controls that you need to conduct. Let's ask. Let's put ourselves in the shoes. So I don't want to give you the case, okay? So we have a case, and let's say it has to do with provision of services, teaching, okay? It can be manufacturing, but I'm just creating a hypothetical, okay? So let's say you are the audit manager for a service company, teaching. And then you realize that an employee had filed a litigation against the senior management that during the course of the work, he hurt himself. So he's applying for workman's compensation under the Act. You are the auditor. I hope you are listening, okay? And the amount of money the employee is claiming against the company, against the service company, the teaching institution, is very significant, very huge. But the senior management thinks that they have every ways and means to defend themselves in the court. So they will not pay the claim. Have you seen this case? Very easy, simple case. You see similar one. It may not be a service, it may be a manufacturing company, okay? Now the question is, what controls would you put in place? Okay, what controls do you expect the company to put in place during this work? Okay, I'm a teacher, I come in to teach, and then in the course of teaching, once I was writing on the marker board, I turned back and the screen was not fixed well. It landed on my head. I got a very deep cut, and I said the UWS has been irresponsible because they did not fix the items well. I'm hurt. Take them to court. I'm filing for 10 million pounds. The university thinks it's too high. They think that, Richard, you should have stood 5 meters away from the board, but you were just stuck to the board, so we wouldn't pay. Auditor comes in and thinks 10 million that Richard is asking for is quite significant. You are the auditor. What controls, 2 or 3, do you think the company should have put in place to reduce the risk of that thing hitting my head? And then what test would you as an auditor perform to assess whether the controls the management had put in place was effective or not? You got it, right? Very easy. Okay, very easy. Anyone can help me. Just let's try one. If you have any idea, otherwise we can skip and go on to the next one.
Health and safety.
Health and safety. So what is the control? How would you mention the control? Sotani, how would you mention the control?
Um,
The university should have clearly pasted some notice by the wall saying that once you are standing there, make sure you stand 5 meters away from the main board, because there could be the risk of it falling on your head. Do they have that policy? Have they written it? Have they clearly pasted it? Okay. Number 2, the company should ensure that one control is that they should always have regular maintenance of the screen, which is stuck on the wall, to be sure that it is well affixed onto the wall. You see, those are simple things you can easily tell, okay? Don't write that they should have a policy. Where is the policy? Does the staff have access to these policies? Or it is just online and you expect me to go and find it? So even if there's a policy, make sure that this policy is clearly stated. It's like you go to the train station, rail station, they'll put clear-cut controls stated that stay away from the yellow line. And then even when you are boarding the train, they will tell you that do not enter the train when the doors are closing, when the doors are shutting. They tell you, okay, something you can hear, okay? And they should even have something that our colleagues who are visually impaired could read using their fingers, okay? So if there's a policy, is it clearly stated? Is it clearly posted somewhere? Okay, and how would you verify this? Like if there's a policy, 1, there should be a policy, yes, but the policy must be easily accessible by all staff. Number 2, as an auditor, how would you review this policy? How would you review the policy? Discuss with some of the employees and ask them, do they know this policy? Do they know where to access it? Do they understand it? During their induction, were they taught? You see, very easy, very easy. Okay, so we can get this one. We can get this. All right, let's move on. So that is it. Put it in the form of a table, 2 column. 2 column. You see that the questions are 2, 1 and 2. Well, you can write it there. I mean, question maybe case 32 II. And you write the controls there. And then III. You describe the test. That's okay. But what we expect is that we want to match the control with a test. Okay, and it's easy marks. Just 2 very easy marks you can get over there. Okay. And we are not testing you on many, just 2 controls and 2 tests of controls. That's all. You can write more than 4, but just 2. So you can score very good marks there, about 8 marks or so. Okay, so 2 column, control, audit procedure, or test of control. You write the control, you put the procedure there. You write the control, you put the procedure there. Okay, all right. So that is case 32. Again, it continues. And then audit evidence. We want you to mention a specific audit evidence and explain how it will help you to inform a valid conclusion. Okay, and I said, note carefully, you'll be asked to mention a couple of audit evidences and explain their impact or use on the audit process. Advice, you should present them in the form of a table. One column for mentioning the audit evidence you want to gather, and the other explanation of the audit evidence. So 2 columns, very specific, don't generalize, okay? So that's still question 2, okay? And it is still in line with the same case study, okay? So let us still take the compensation that the staff is asking from you, from the company. He sued the UWS, Richard has sued UWS for 10 million, okay? In respect of this, what evidence as an auditor would you want to obtain? And how would it help you to form a conclusion? Very easy. If I tell you that I've sued the UWS, what would you want to see as evidence? Yeah, Lorna, go on. You're not wrong. You're correct.
Maybe like the area went about where, I don't know, like you don't want to see where it happened. You want to see then like the ramifications of what had happened, or I don't know, you just want to see everything.
Yes, you are thinking aloud. You are thinking so deep. The question is, I have sued UWS for 10 million because of negligence on their part. You are an auditor. What shows that I have sued them? What would you want to see?
The payment.
They have not paid. They have not paid. They said they won't pay. They will still defend it. They said they won't pay. They said they won't pay. What would you see in this sentence? I've given you 2 hints. You can easily tell me, okay? You can easily tell me two controls or 2 evidences. The first one is what? I have sued them. What do you want to see to show that is an evidence? Fervin, tell me something. What do you think? What do you want to see? There's nothing wrong. Don't worry. I know it's recorded. Nobody will
I don't have a review.
No, you should have a view because you are always chasing me. If not, she's the one of the people who was chasing me to do these revision sessions. Stephanie, try. There's nothing wrong.
Would you maybe want to see if there's any like legal letters from the lawyers and stuff?
Exactly. You want to see the letter which shows that I have sued them. That is it. Can you explain this letter? Yes. And that's what she said. I want to see a legal letter from the lawyers written. Explanation is that this would tell the auditor whether really a claim has been made and whether it is 10 million or 5 million. And the content would tell me that I am suing them because they allowed the thing to hit my head. The company, UWS said they won't pay. They said they will not pay. Again, Stephanie, tell me, what evidence do you want to see that they said they will not pay?
Maybe the record showing like the letter from the company back to the lawyers stating that they're not willing to pay.
That's it. The email correspondence between UWS and me telling me they won't pay because you should have been careful. The policies were there. And that is what I'll use as an auditor to read and to be very sure that really, what did they communicate? Did they put this in his induction letter, in his appointment letter? I'll end there. Just 2. We've mentioned 2. You see, you can do this very easily, right? You can do this very easily. Okay. And the final one. If there's a claim of this nature, I think our slide mentioned be specific and generalized. How would you report this in your financial? Sorry, in the audit. Remember, they said that 10 million is very material. It's a very big part of UWS income. And I'm claiming 10 million as one person. As an auditor, how would you disclose this? How would you report it? Did they pay? You just did FA3. FA3. IAS 38, 37. Yeah, IAS 37.
38 is the goodwill?
No, 37.
A contingent liability.
Contingent liability.
Yeah.
Contingent liability. This is a claim, potential claim. These guys are not prepared to pay. So as an auditor, remember, contingent liability, the likelihood that it would occur, the possibility that it would occur, there's a probability. Even if it doesn't occur, you have to make provision. You are not actually recognizing it in the books. you disclose. Very easy, right, friends? Very easy. Okay, let's move on. Case 33, we are almost finishing, okay? Deficiency. Okay, go on.
Is this revision is record?
Yeah, I think it's recorded. I made it automatic record, so I know, Fevin, you want to hear recording, so I'll post the recording, okay?
Okay.
I don't want you to see my face because nobody's face is being shown, so I didn't want to record, but God is on our side. It is recorded.
We all needed it recorded, Richard, I tell you.
Yes, if you stick to the recording, just forward the recording to where we started the question, then listen, and then you pass. Okay. I'm not giving you answers, so nobody can say I'm giving you answers. All right, areas. Accounting area. We just mentioned a lot of accounting areas. There's one key area with accounting, okay? And that area has lots of weaknesses, lots of weaknesses in that particular area. Revenue, you realize that IFRS 16 and 15 keeps changing. The standard keeps changing every now and then. It's a very volatile area. And so each audit is always in the minds of auditors. Cost of sales audit is one of the difficult items, but you are not being tested there. But there's another one area which is very tricky, which is prone to fraud. Which area is that? Anyone try?
Revenue, sales.
I mentioned revenue. I mentioned leases. Don't mention them. Try something else. It's very easy. Try. There's one area which is very, and it always surfaces in professional exams. In fact, if you practice that alone, again, assets. Yes, assets is one of those areas. Revenue, leases, assets. I'm saying assets because assets have some link with leases. Yes. So don't mention assets again. I've mentioned IFRS 15 and 16, leases and revenue. Assets, don't add them. Okay. Which one again? Try. You know, the cash system, cash and treasury is also volatile, right? But there's one thing there. The payment system, the wages and salaries. The wages and salaries, it's like almost every year ACCA allows this, test this area twice in their exams. You know, they write March, June, September, December. It always surfaces twice in any of the settings, in the sittings, okay? So I wouldn't spend so much time here. In fact, if you look at the slides, I said in an accounting system, and I said identify the consequences, explain the deficiencies, what we started with, okay? And then corrective actions and test of controls, and put it in the form of a 3-column, okay? So the wages, the payroll, the payroll, people steal a lot. People don't come to work. They still clock in and clock out. I'm at UWS, London. Attendance system, there's the barcode reader. Students are supposed to tap in their ID card to show that they are present in class. But what happens is most of the students are international students, and they have bills to pay and fees to pay. And there's no exams here. It is assessment, essay, because the courses is not the MSc. I'm the program leader, MSc Accounting and Finance, and the MSc is not accredited. So students, you know what they do? They come, they tap in, and they go home. So in the system, they are 100% present in class. But in classroom, they've never been there. They've never been to class. I had an experience just when I came here. Out of the 51 students in one of my modules, 51, 20 were constantly, maximum people you see in my class, 20. But when I was marking the paper, 51, when you check the attendance record, you get about 48, 49 of them 100% present. And it happens in the workplace. Somebody goes to the factory, takes the friend's ID card, goes and clock in and clock out for the person. And you think the person is at work. No, he's sleeping, he's enjoying. He went to booze over the weekend and he's tired. He cannot come to work on Monday. A friend would do and swap in for him. So payroll is a very volatile area where lots of criminal activities go on there, okay? So I've given you a hint, typically, on the payroll system. So you get a case study, you don't have to think outside the box. the answers are in the case, okay? So the case study will tell you to identify a number of deficiencies, no more than 5, no more than 5. So if we tell you that 5 or even 3, if we tell you 3, and we tell you that the marks are 15 marks, it tells you that writing the deficiency, okay, so we tell you 3, identify 3, total marks is 15. It means for each one is 5 marks. Each one is 5 marks, right? So the deficiency and then the consequence. Don't forget the consequence. Tell us that employees clock in but do not clock out. Therefore, there is a risk that people could be claiming salaries for no work done. You've written it in one sentence. Employees clock in but do not clock out, which means that some employees could be claiming for salaries though they've not worked. One sentence, you are done, okay? And then give a recommendation. What recommendation should we put in? Maybe a CCTV to ensure that employees clock in and clock out. Or the barcode reader should be designed in such a way that it will record the clock in and the clock out and record the time. You've said it, you are done. That's a control. How do you test it? Now you're going to test the recommendation, okay? So you check, do employees arrive and leave? Do some supervisors print out the weekly log in and log out, clock in and clock out and sign off? Are the CCTVs in place? Are they recording? Can you go and pull out a tape of the CCTV and watch a sample of them, footage of them to see when employees clocked in and clocked out? You see, these are very practical, very easy to do, very easy to write, not hypothetical, okay? So that is it. Case 33, done. Any questions? Okay. Design a test. Okay.
Sorry, Richard,
Yeah, go on.
just back to that question. Can you like put your statement like as a question or as a, like you can ask, like, is there like a CCTV there?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, you can put it in the form of
CCTV
a
is
question.
working, stuff like that, or you
Yeah.
can just like put like a positive statement.
Yeah, you can put it in the form of a question. In fact, when you work with these audit firms, their audit programs are questions. Is there a CCTV there? Is the CCTV operational? Can you get a footage of the CCTV and check the clock in and clock out? That is it. So in fact, when you write it that way, you are writing an audit program. That's how their program is. So what I would say is that I don't know who will be marking. I'm not marking. If I am marking, if any professional examiner is marking this paper, if you put it in the form of a question, they will give you the full marks. But honestly, we are understaffed. So maybe an associate lecturer will mark, and he is working strictly with the marking scheme. So maybe, and in fact, I'm in London, so they cannot transport the scripts to me in London to mark and then transport it back. Some of them could get missing. And if Sultana, your paper gets missing, I'm dead. So turn the program to a sentence. So instead of asking, are there CCTVs which are operational? Just write, I will check whether the CCTVs in place are operational. That's all. I will check some of the footage from the CCTV to see whether employees clocked in and clocked out. I will check whether the supervisors have, whether the supervisors review or print out the clock in register and review and sign off before it goes to payroll. You see?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, thank you.
Great. So there's another question there on case 33, which is about substantive procedures you perform on the same payroll, okay? So first one is you identify the control deficiency, okay? Make a recommendation, describe the control that you test, describe, okay? Substantive testing is where we do the detail. Once we're talking of payroll, we're talking of cash, okay? Don't worry, my good friends. Don't worry. Okay, let me ask. What substantive test would you perform on a payroll? Even just one. Someone tell me one. Most of us here work. Most of us here work. So when you get your salary, what do you get? Do you get a net or gross?
Net.
Net. But is it what is reflected in your payroll? No. It's the gross and then some deductions. So my question is, Lorna, what test would you perform if you get your payroll? You were paid 6,000, but actual cash in your account is 4,000. What would you do?
I know it's the AE, observe, inspect, inquire, all this, but I'm not 100% sure. I always get these wrong, Richard. I need help with these ones. I always go off.
Yeah.
I never pick the most efficient one. You're asking the wrong person, is what I'm saying. I know it's that. I'm not even sure. I don't know what I would do.
No, you know what you would do, but like you said, not sure. We'll have a lawyer to bail you. Who will help us? Shiraz, my brother, Shiraz, what would you do?
Test.
Yes, go on. You're not wrong. Shiraz, you work. You get your pay. On your payroll paper that they gave you from your workplace is 6,000.
Yeah.
But the actual cash that hits your account is 4,000.
Yep.
What would you do? Would you just accept 4,000 that, okay, the company has done a good calculation, it's okay?
You check.
You check. How would you check?
Inspect the documents. Inspect
the documents. Which document are you inspecting? You see, that's what we do. Inspect the document. We have to be very clear. Maybe there's
like the payroll thingy for the week or something. Like say it was the hours sheet or something. Maybe you would look at you'd inspect that.
Exactly. That's specific what you write. So take the payroll sheet and check the hours I worked. Does it correspond to the amount they have paid as gross? Okay. Number two, I would also want to check. I got 6,000. Why am I getting 4,000? They deducted some stuff. My NI, my tax, my pension. I need to do some recalculation to check whether the deductions done are correct. Okay. And like you said, you said you check the documents. Your pay slip is a document. So I check the pay slip and I check whether the deductions they've given to NI, to the state is correct or they've overcharged. Even my tax code, I'll check whether the tax code they've put there is correct or not. Okay, so you can easily get this done beautifully. Okay. Okay, I thought we'll finish in an hour, but let's finish. We are wrapping up. Final one. Final case study. So everything here is on one accounting system, and I've given you the hint. It's payroll. Payroll is being examined at a minimum every year. It appears 2 times in the September, March, December, June exams for the ACCA. So it's nothing new. Okay, finally. A question on interim audit and final audit. I wouldn't go deep. I wouldn't tell you whether you should look for difference between interim audits and final audits, or I wouldn't tell you whether when do we perform interim audits and when do we perform final audit. But at least, if for nothing at all, understand the meaning of interim and final, and that is it. That alone will give you a general understanding of what to write. If the question comes, you don't know, you can easily tell. Okay. All right. And then I also said, we started with this one, internal audit, external audit, they are always examined. So the question is, ISA 610, and I've mentioned it, placing reliance on the work of IA function. Question is, what kind of question would they ask me in this area? Okay. Another one, audit procedures and considerations in the audit of key items of the balance sheet. Okay, so I said, focus on only one. You may focus on only the assets, okay? And I've not said fixed assets or non-current assets. I've said current and non-current, so it can be any of them. It can be the non-current asset, the PPE, okay? It can be accounts receivable. It can be the inventory. It can be the cash, one of them. one of them, okay? The question will be very specific, very, very specific. And it will ask you to, so that you know which component to address, okay? The question will be very specific. So that should be it for this one. And then what did I say? Once again, be specific, present your answer, tailor your answers to the case. That's it, okay? So I have given you one more hint over there. In terms of the case 34, it will be one item from the assets section. It can be cash. It can be cash and cash equivalent, the investments. It can be PPE. It can be inventory. It can be receivables. Okay, those are the main items you can find. One of them, audit procedures. If I know the audit procedures for receivables, you know, has some link with cash and even inventory, because we sell the inventory before people get to owe us, which would then materialize into cash. So it is linked. If I take PPE, we pay cash. Sometimes we buy on credit. So there could be receivable there could be cash there. So you see how the triangle works. It links with them, okay? If I take cash can go through any of this. And even with cash audit, what normally do? We go to the bank, we get confirmation letters. Why? How would we do that? Okay, so those are the items we're just trying to, you'll be fine. You'll be fine, okay? This is more specific than the other one we did during the main exams. That is it, unless there is any other question. So the recording started even when we have not started speaking. So I think the first 6 minutes or 3 minutes when you are watching the video, knock them off and then jump to where you think you need help. All right. Any questions? Fevin, Sultani, Alexandra, Paul. Okay, Sultani is here twice. I'm sure he's using a phone and maybe a laptop. Stephanie, Lorna, Shiraz, Kirsty, Cedric, Iona. Is it the Iona I know, or is it a different Iona? Viera, Maggie, Joanna, Kirsten. Any
Richard.
question? Yes.
Sorry, I'm just I'm just using laptop and the desktop because of the microphone.
No
So
worries.
that's why it's probably showing two screen.
No worries.
Anyway, the question I have is, see on the second or case 32,
Yes.
it says relevant assertions that relate to the key accounts.
Yes.
See the RECV. So do you just like put, I mean, if it comes, would we just write in obligation, for example, and the detail for that, or how would you do that?
Yeah, I like the way
I'm quite not sure about that.
Yeah, I like the way you've even found some acronyms. So RECV, rights and obligations, and then you explain. Okay, if it is a PPE, rights and obligations, just in your own language. Do I have the right? Do I own it? What is the title deed? That shows that this property is mine.
So yeah, that's my question. So you have to like write the detail under this, not just only like writing obligation, existence, completeness stuff.
Exactly, the detail. Sometimes they will ask you to define or explain. The question will clearly say, list and explain, mention and explain. So you write the R&O, then you explain. You write the existence, and then you explain. The completeness, then you explain. In one sentence, enough. And I think that one is about 6 marks. So we ask you about 4. So each one takes 1.5 marks. So even the mentioning of the R and O gives you like 1 mark, then or half a mark, and then the explanation gives you 1 mark. So the marking scheme is designed in such a way, like the same ACCA standard, where we say that if the student, let me see, you said case 32, right? Where we say that if the student just mentions number 2, yeah, we say, yeah. So if the student just simply mentions the R and O, give him half a mark. But if he explains, give him the 1.5 marks. So the explanation takes 1 mark. So existence, if you want to explain existence, you want to say whether the original transaction exists. You don't need to write another word for exists. Existence is exist. This is not English, okay? So to check whether the original transaction amount exists, that's all. You got your 1.5 mark. Completeness, are everything included or recorded? You get your 1.5 marks. You get it. So we'll say identify and explain. 1 sentence is enough. Any other question? No more questions. Good. This is the first time I've organized a revision in my almost 3 years with UWS, and students have turned up. Nobody turns up. This is the first time. So that's why when they were saying, I said, I'm not going to do it because nobody will turn up. They'll waste my time. But this is the first time students have turned up. I'm sure the rest will watch the videos. That's why I didn't want to record. Maggie, you want to say something? I can see you've unmuted yourself.
We want to pass, that's why we turned up.
Yeah, everybody will pass. It's a shame that we couldn't pass the first time. I don't like it when students fail. I don't like it at all.
Neither do we.
Yeah, Kirsten, is true. It's a lot of bed in summertime. You have to go to Edinburgh Castle to have some sunshine with the family. And you are learning to write exams, not the best. All right, friends, I'll leave you here. You have my email. If you are, anyone, someone wants to say something.
Richard,
Yes, go on.
can you please stay on the call after you finish the recording and just say a quick word on something I would like to discuss?
All right, okay,
Basically,
so
yeah.
sure. So I'll stop the recording once we are done. Otherwise, whatever we discuss will be there. Everybody will hear.
No, it's-
Sure. All right, friends, any other questions? So Cedric, I'm sure you should be okay to go through this time round. He's an exchange student, so
Yeah, it won't be a problem.
yeah, sorry for the headache to travel back and all those stuff. All right, so I'll leave you, my good friends, and take good care of yourselves. I'll make sure once this one downloads, I'll just upload it quickly. Yeah, Joanna is giving me a thumbs up. Yeah, Joanna, you should have spoken. All right.
Thanks, Richard. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kirsty. Stephanie is clapping for me. Good. I'm a celebrity now.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Richard. Thank you for your time.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. See you soon.
Yeah, Lorna, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Viera.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Alexandra. Bye.